for change.
Make sure we understand each other. Welcome, everybody. It is Monday night, and this is In the Batter's Box, the NGSC Sports Baseball Show. I am your host, Ralph Garcia, joined by the crew, side by side camera angle. You can see all of our ugly faces, not just mine. He is the host of the Enhanced Sports Show, 4 to 6 p.m. That'd be Saturdays. It's Monday. You got time. You don't have a lot of time left, but you got a little time left to start calling in. Of course, he's also the co-host of In the Batter's Box, Mr. Louis Tenoa. Louis.
Evening, Ralph.
What do you say, Louis? What's going on, Louis?
Well, the Eastern Division, the regular East is right now a bit of a mess. I can tell for sure. The NL West looks to be the best division right now, and of course, also the NL East is looking pretty sharp too. Oh boy!
Yeah, we're gonna do a quick roundup. John's got a couple of things that'll take up most of our time, but we got to cover Major League Baseball. We got to finish off with college baseball. Of course, the co-host, my partner, and my good friend, John Doucette. John.
Ralph, as always.
Yeah, another one. Baseball's just getting started, okay? So, for those of you who are getting very happy that your team started off so great, it's probably one of those teams that don't do so great as the season goes on. So, let's try not to get a little too happy, folks, but baseball is here. And our introduction, or at least get my banners up here, we'll start off with, we're on to the website. It is ngscsports.com where you catch all of your current content. Log on right now. Bradley Walker is busy in Clearwater, Florida, covering the Clearwater Threshers, the single A affiliate of the Philadelphia Phillies. I got that right, John? Single A affiliate.
Philadelphia Phillies, yes.
I was trying to figure out what it was.
So if I blew it, we blew it. Single A affiliate of the Philadelphia Phillies. Brad had a great opening night. Hey, John and I, and Louis with us on the baseball show. How many times or for how many years have John and I been telling you how exciting college baseball is? Minor league baseball is? Independent league baseball is? Not that Major League Baseball, I mean, it is the league. So we tell you about that. And John, Brad called me after his first Threshers game. He doesn't call me. He called me. I said, "What's going on?" He sounded like a kid in the cane. Sounded like he came from the fair after riding all the rides. He was just excited. I said, "Brad, what's going on?" He said, "Oh, I can't believe it." He says, "This is so much fun." He said that it wasn't like. So what a difference from covering that and Major League Baseball. Yeah. They got to bring in the fans. They don't have the brand Major League Baseball ad. So of course, Johnny's talking about the little added extras that they had at the minor league park, things for the kids,
Right.
other things during the seventh inning stretch, stuff. He's like, it's everywhere. So you could do stuff everywhere. Listen, you think they're going to keep people sitting there just for the team? That's why it's
because the team changes as the year goes along. That's the problem.
yeah. Family-friendly park. And anyway, John's also been busy. UMass Lowell avoids the sweep with a 7-6 win over UMBC. John, saw you with of course, the coach Nick Parise interview the other night. You had your hood up, John.
Yeah, it was a cold, rainy night, day and night actually, on Friday. It's the middle of April, and we're still trying to finally break through the spring around here, and it doesn't look like it's going to happen anytime soon. Yeah, it was a cold night, and along with a long day and night. Unfortunately, they would lose the doubleheader on Friday. They did not play on Saturday because the combination of cold and rain just wasn't going to allow that to happen. And so they ended up playing on Sunday instead to finish off that series. It was a must win for the Riverhawks. They they have really kind of put themselves a bit in a hole, but they survived on Sunday. Had a 7-2 lead that eventually became 7-6. They survived the bases loaded with one out in the top of the ninth inning, as Dylan Better picked up a save off a line drive double play that ended the ball game to give them the win. But they've got some. Look. They got some winning to do. It's just that simple. They've got some winning to do if they want to get to Maine to the American East tournament. They've got a 2-game advantage on Albany, who happens to be in last place at the moment, and they've got to keep it that way if they want to get there.
Yeah. And by the way, people, look, John, of course, always busy, when he can. Go to Boston College. He's all over UMass Lowell. Takes a trip every once in a while to Merrimack. And he's a busy guy in the Sunday Center. It's not just UMass Lowell. John also happened to hang out there for the PWHL. And recently, John also hung out there to watch what appeared to be a doozy as the Massachusetts Pirates pick up their first win on a big field goal by Josh Gable. Huh, John?
They almost blew that.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's what I was getting reading your story. I was reading your story. I was like, whoa, they almost blew that game.
Well, they almost blew the game because the coach, for some reason, just went brain dead and didn't call the timeout with seconds left in the game. It had to be the quarterback that did it. He ran to the referee and he called timeout with 1 second left. Had he not called the timeout, they lose that game. No, it would have ended up being a tie. It would have ended up being 47-47 and a tie. But he called it with 1 second left, and Josh Gable then went out there and hit a 22-yard field goal to win the game. But they almost just, for whatever reason, went brain dead and almost allowed an opportunity to just slip away from them.
First win of the season, too.
Yeah, it was.
Sammy Sportface brings us breaking. NBA to only broadcast Western Conference playoffs, ignoring Eastern Conference. So Sammy Sportface has two biases. Real simple. Caitlin and Joker. If it ain't that, Sammy's not interested in basketball. Well,
Right.
That told him that doesn't make you a basketball fan then, okay?
No,
all that and more, of course, on ngscsports.com, where we never stop. And so, Major League Baseball. First thing I see, John, remember the Toronto Blue Jays, Vlad Jr., the Shaq Jr. We were wondering, right? Do the Blue Jays have? Well, no, they didn't. They tried, but they didn't. But one of the things that we've followed is what would happen to Vlad Jr. once it was time to re-up or ship out. Vlad Jr. announces, John, I'm going to be a Blue Jay forever.
Yeah, and it's really helped that ball club, too. I do think that that was the kind of move that that clubhouse needed to hear. The investment that's been made by the organization into Vlad, I think, is something that this clubhouse has responded to. As soon as it happened, they took 3 out of 4 here in Boston for the Red Sox, and they've continued on with a pretty good series over the weekend against the Orioles. And so I do think that the commitment that's been made by this organization to Vlad Jr. is something that this clubhouse has really taken to heart.
Well, I mean, everybody needs a shot. Everything needs a shot in the arm or some kind of adrenaline or some moment. I didn't know how much it was going to have. It's still early in the season. But that's where his dad played, where he's at. And obviously that would mean a lot. It would mean a lot to me.
It was definitely Montreal.
It means a lot to me.
Right. I mean, Vlad was in Montreal, right? That's right. He was in Montreal, Toronto.
Montreal. Isn't that who they became? No. Yeah. No. He was in Montreal. That's right. I'm thinking of Canada. That's what I'm thinking of, Canada. Dad played in Canada. He plays in Canada. Thank you, Louis. One day you'll get old like me, Louis. I'm telling you, it gets bad. But
I'm not.
I mean, Louis, he gets to stay in Toronto, and the question now will be, well, what's Toronto going to do about it, right?
Yeah. Well, if they deliver, if if he helps deliver Toronto, to wins and maybe a World Series, they'll keep him around, and he'll live up to that. Of
Yeah,
course,
but
I
they
don't
got
know
to.
if it's gonna be the glory days of '92 or '93, but I mean, Black and hit, he's gonna be worth the money. He's gonna be staying there.
But his signing, John, obviously not enough for Toronto. Great for Toronto, not enough. Got to add pieces. You're going to sign this guy. I suppose you're signing him with the thought of building around him to build a winner, John.
Yeah, I would think that that's the conversation that Vlad had with the organization, that they would commit to building a team around him to contend in the East and to contend in the American League in general. And I would think that whatever conversation that Vlad had with the ownership group was good enough for him to go ahead and make this commitment to them. And now it's up to them to deliver it.
And good enough to, as John was saying, feel good enough to help propel right now Toronto into what is the lead in the AL East. But brings me to the second place team, that team from the dark side. You know, that'd be the very much hated New York Yankees. Hey, Louis, let's go back to the beginning of the season. 3-0, 50 bombs over the weekend. It's looking like holy crap. And after that, it's been pretty much crap.
It has. I guess the torpedoes fizzled in the second week.
I mean, what happened? What the hell was going on? I mean,
yeah, I guess the torpedo bats ran out of ammunition. Oh boy! And against the Giants, I mean, the Giants, took us for our money, and they just pounded us. Although Friday that game never should have been played, though. I mean, that's another story, though. But the Giants have gotten us, and we're just barely above 500 right now. I mean, with the AL East is not as good as it was, last year whatnot. So this is a little bit surprising to me. How we're being such a weak division already, except for the goofy Blue Jays.
I mean, John, don't get me wrong. Nothing makes me happy like when the Yankees are playing sappy. But what is going on? What is going on with the Yankees? I mean, they just, those bats just all of a sudden are not booming.
Yeah. Well, maybe those bats weren't what we thought they were in the first place. Maybe they weren't the secret weapon that it was being projected that they could potentially be. The Yankees still have some pitching issues. They still have some
injury issues
in their everyday lineup, and I think that those issues unfortunately came to bear since those bats were introduced. I mean, it's interesting how all of a sudden nobody's talking about those torpedo bats any longer because they really, I guess, weren't as big a deal as it was made out to be after that first weekend in New York.
And John, let's talk a little bit about those Sox.
Well, when you leave the major league in errors, you're going to have problems.
And when you play, what is it now? They're 2-5 or 2-6 against teams above 500.
Oh boy,
not going to help you when you can't play with the big boys.
Well, let's face it. Lost 3 out of 4 at home to the Blue Jays. Then they go to Chicago to see the White Sox and lose 2 out of 3 to them. So it was not a very good week for them. And again, they're leading the major leagues in errors, which doesn't help at all. So that defensive problems that they have had for the past couple of years have resurfaced, and it's something that they're going to have to find ways to fix because if you give teams extra outs and you give teams extra at bats in games, they're going to take advantage, and that's what's been going on.
Yeah.
That guy's breaking news out of the AL East. Hey, the Baltimore Orioles, they don't suck anymore. But they're in familiar territory.
Yep.
John?
It's just been a rough start for everybody in the American League East. There's no question about that. It's just been a rough start for everybody, and I think at some point it eventually turns itself around, but it may take a little while.
Yeah,
Now,
they're July.
Yeah.
Oh. And again, let's remember it's early. Teams haven't even played 20 games yet. There's time. But as we talk about,
Unless the White Sox, yes.
well, yeah, and well, by the way, when the Red Sox are losing, what is it?
No,
2 or 3?
I meant
Two
the
or
White Sox.
three?
They lost 2 out of 3 in
You know.
Chicago over the weekend. Yes.
Yeah.
That's pretty bad. You lose to a 2-win team. That's pretty bad. You make them look good at 4-11. But let me tell you about looking good. Hey, what did I miss about the Detroit Tigers? It's early, but they're sitting up there in first place.
I don't think you missed anything about them. I mean, AJ Hinch is a good manager, and that's a pretty good team. And let's face it, the success that they had in September last year, the run they made in the playoffs, that's a team that I think is a lot different than people may have given it credit for. And they certainly want to prove that they're worthy of being considered in the upper echelon of the American League. And so far, they're living up to it.
Louis, you know it's the beginning of the year when I tell you this.
Yes.
The leaders in the AL East are the Toronto Blue Jays. The leaders in the AL Central are the Detroit Tigers. And the leaders in the AL West are the Los Angeles Angels. Hey, the A's are 6-10. The A's are 6-10. I don't know why. I thought they would be worse.
Yeah. Considering, the debacle of, last year leaving Oakland and now in their whatever territory they're in. So at least the fans are coming out a little bit more.
Yeah.
They see a little support for this team, whatever they want to call themselves now. I still
Yeah.
call them Oakland by old habits.
Yeah.
No offense, of course, but
Yeah, they're
still the Yankees.
Yeah, they're just the Athletics now.
Yeah.
And John, you talked about it being rough in the AL East. When I look at the standings over here, of course, except for the Tigers are at 600 ball, 9-6, and the Angels 9-6, 600 ball. Everybody else in the American League 8-7, 8-9, 8-7, 8-8, 9-7, 8-8, 7-8. Talk about early parity, huh?
Yeah, it really has been. It really has been a rough go for a lot of teams in the American League so far, and not necessarily the case in the National League, but certainly in the American League, it's been a bit of a rough go for a lot of teams.
Yeah.
And speaking of the National League, the first story that I'm going to talk about is not my Mets. Hey, Louis, who is the only team that can beat the Los Angeles Dodgers?
The Dodgers themselves.
And John, they're doing a pretty good job of that right now.
They've lost 6 out of their last 9, and the bottom of that Dodger order is not producing, and consequently, it's making it hard for guys like Betts and Ohtani to get the job done at the top of the order. They had a rough weekend at home against the Cubs this past weekend, in which
they really had a hard time.
Night, and then got beat again last night by the Cubs. So they look, we all thought they were going to be a juggernaut, and maybe they still end up to be a juggernaut, but for the time being, they're a beatable team.
And yet the San Diego Padres at a +30 in run differential, a 13-3 record, which is the record we thought the Dodgers would have at the moment. By the way, the Dodgers are 11-6. And on top of that, with the Padres, undefeated at home.
Well, and on top of that, they just finished a 3-game series with the Colorado Rockies in which they shut out the Rockies in all 3.
All 3 games, man. I don't remember the last time I seen that.
No, I don't either. And again, we're talking about a team right now that's on getting it done in every phase of the game: offense, defense, the pitching, everything.
3 straight shutouts.
Great shutouts.
Wow. Think about that.
Padres, no less.
Think about that for a second. I mean, baseball.
We don't need you.
baseball's built on the long ball now, right? That's what they do, right? They hit the long ball, they get a lot of runs. So you get a shutout. You can appreciate a shutout. You get a second shutout. Your pitching coaches are saying, "Hey, not bad." You get a third one, and that's something to build on too, because I know it's early. No, who thought the Dodgers would be 11-6 after 17 games? Like nobody, no one, no one. You could hate the Dodgers, and you could hate them, and no way they would be 11-6. You know how it happens sometimes, John, right? A team gets off to a bad start, or the kind of start that they shouldn't get off, or pretty bad, and they never recover. I don't see that happening with the Dodgers because they're too good on paper, but they shouldn't be.
Again, I mean, look, you've got the Padres and the Giants that are playing pretty good baseball in that division. So it's not.
Giants are playing good baseball.
It's not like the Dodgers are running away from anybody, and at the moment they're kind of looking up at at least one team, and maybe eventually it's two. But for the time being, at least, they're looking up at the San Diego Padres and maybe not liking what they see.
And as I talk about the Padres being 10-0 at home, the Giants are doing it on the road. 7-2 on the road. Hey. So though we thought the West would be won early by the Dodgers, the San Diego Padres and the San Francisco Giants are telling us, yes, it's early, but we got a little something to say about that. And I want to see now. I want to see now what the Padres do with this lead, John, because they know who's behind them. Are they really worried about the Giants? No, everybody's worried about the Dodgers. Finally getting it in gear and pulling away. If San Diego stands a chance, the momentum you have right now, that's got to carry you to the All-Star break and see where you are then. And, we might have a story in the West.
Yeah, you could. And again, I think the Padres are certainly good enough that they might be able to carry the All-Star break. There's an awful lot of money in that clubhouse, and it's been that way for the past 2-3 years now. But maybe that clubhouse has finally decided that they're going to put their financial differences aside and start playing together.
Play baseball.
Right.
Because they've had a team on paper for several years now who have underproduced, really underproduced. And then Chicago Cubs, 11-7 atop the NL Central. And yes, my Mets are up front at 10-5. I like what they're doing. Still work to do, but it's a team, especially when you get a guy like Juan Soto's a caliber of him. It's going to take a minute for this team to gel. Him and Pete Alonso seem to be getting along really good, which is great. Soto said recently that he was rooting for the Mets to sign Pete. So we'll see how that goes there. But the Atlanta Braves, John. See what I was just talking about? You can get off to a good start, Louis. You know what I mean, Louis? You get off to a good start. You can carry that momentum. Unfortunately, it looks like that's working in reverse for Atlanta.
The Braves don't even have any momentum right now. I mean, they haven't done anything. This is not like the Atlanta Braves that I know.
Yeah, pretty bad, John. 1-9 on the road. They can't. That offense can't get going.
No.
Pitching staff giving up runs. It's so uncharacteristic. Yeah, injuries. Yeah, stuff. But
that could be a factor.
Yeah, this team as a whole is really underperforming.
It has underperformed, and you do wonder for how much longer will they keep it this way before they decide to do something to try and shake the clubhouse up.
A week.
Man, it's just strange hearing that about an Atlanta Brave team that you saw a couple of years ago. And me as a Met fan, I was nervous. These guys are about to pull another. I don't know if they're going to win another 15 straight NL East, but geez. And all of a sudden, things can change on a dime. Things can change on a dime. Ask the Kansas City Royals from years back.
Yes.
Kansas, Kansas City Royals team that won a World Series not too long ago. A Royals team that John himself, back then you said, John, you know what? And I'm paraphrasing. But you know what's going to kill the Royals? John, you said what's going to kill the Royals was money.
Salary arbitration, yeah, and it did.
They wouldn't be able to keep those guys who brought them that championship,
Right.
and they couldn't. And they couldn't.
Right.
Well, listen, that's our week, Louis. Yankees are in second place, though, Louis. I need them to drop just a bit more, Louis. Maybe they can switch places with the Orioles. We could have a good show.
Maybe, but I'm not saying that right now.
They're still scoring runs. I see. Holy crap! The Chicago Cubs have scored 116 runs already.
Yeah, that's a pretty good lineup. That's a pretty good lineup.
The crap is going on? Oh, they got a plus 40.
Only 3 weeks from the season. They got that many runs already. Oh, wow.
Man, not bad. Not bad. Not bad. That really caught my eye. Not bad. All right. John brings us one. The World Baseball Classic groups are set. When I go over here to this wonderful, beautiful website, of course, the World Baseball Classic website, it says the World Baseball Classic 2026 pools have been finalized. John, tell us about that.
Well, the United States will be in Pool B with Great Britain, Italy, Mexico, and themselves. I think it's a pool that they can do some pretty good damage in and survive without too much difficulty. I think Mexico would be the most difficult game in that pool for them to play, but I think the other two should not be that big of an issue for them. And so I think that getting out of that pool and into the quarterfinals of that tournament shouldn't be that difficult for them to master. Mark DeRosa is going to be back as the manager of that team. The only holdover from his last staff that was a part of the 2022 World Baseball Classic would be Andy Pettit, who's going to be the pitching coach. But other than that, that staff is basically brand new. And you do wonder if DeRozan is trying to set himself up as the potential when that happens in 28.
Yeah.
This will be from the World Baseball Classic website. This will be the second WBC with a 20-team field. So just like in 2023, there'll be 4 pools of 5 teams. Top 2 teams of each pool will advance to the quarterfinals in Houston and Miami.
Yes, the United States is going to play their preliminary games in Houston, but it will not be at Minute Maid Park. It'll be at another ballpark that is located in Houston. Sounds like it's a minor league field of some sort. And then from there, you either go to Houston or Miami for the quarterfinals and then to Miami for the semifinals and finals. So the United States did get to the championship game the last time, and that was the famous Shohei Ohtani, Mike Trout battle in that 9th inning of the championship game that Ohtani was able to strike him out on. So the United States is certainly trying to get themselves back to that position and see if they can win it this time.
I picked the hell of a time to move out of Houston, Texas.
Unfortunately, yes, you could have gotten the chance to see the World Baseball Classic, at least the preliminary stage of it.
Yeah. Hey, look. It's nice to see the Classic continue to evolve, right? You wonder when they first started, how long would it hold? Could it hold? That's not a question anymore.
No, I guess not. I guess the Players Association has made their case about this particular tournament, and despite the fact that owners and general managers may not be happy about it, it does appear that they're willing to at least go along with it based on the way it's set up. So I'm talking about the event is what you're talking about here. It's going to be at the very early stages of spring training next year.
March 6th to 11th, Pool
Right.
A, San Juan, Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico, Cuba, Canada. Oh wow, what a nice. I love this the that they came up with this. It's just tonight breaks from Brady again. One of those leagues that we talk about that are so exciting, other than Major League Baseball. You like the stories that come out of there, and who knows, a player or two that might hit the jackpot.
Right.
That's the idea for that, right?
I mean, there
And
are
then
some interesting teams that have qualified this time, and there are some teams that are not in it this time. So you have some potential new faces that'll be a part of the World Baseball Classic when it takes place next spring.
USA goes in ranked number 5 by the
Yep.
WBSC. Of course, in 2023, they did lose to Japan in the finals.
And it'll be interesting to see. I mean, what does Japan do here? I'm sure they want Otani to be a part of that roster, but what will he do for them? Will he just hit for them? I doubt very seriously that the Dodgers would allow him to pitch and hit. So that'll be an interesting side story. For Team USA, it's going to be Paul Skeens. Will the Pirates allow him to be a part of that World Baseball Classic? And if they do, what kind of limitations will be put on Skeens to be a part of that particular team? So you're going to have the behind the scenes stuff that always takes place with this tournament to go along with the actual playing of those games.
And let me see here. Where was I at in World Baseball Classic? In the USA pool. Come on, get me back to where I was. There we go. The USA pool, which is, of course, in Houston. It
Mhm.
is at Dakin Park, a retractable roof stadium that opened up in 2000. It's the home. I don't think it's yeah, it is going to be played at Dakin Park.
All right. So what is this park?
Oh,
Well, where
yeah.
is this thing located?
It, John, I don't know. I'm confused here because it says that's home of the Houston Astros, and
Oh,
the
so they've
address
renamed
is
the ballpark. So it's not named Minute Maid Park anymore.
no, I didn't realize that.
I
Oh,
didn't realize that
Dakin
either. Okay, so it's the ballpark that we thought it was going to be. It's just not named Minute Maid anymore.
The Astros announced in November that Dakin, a Japanese air conditioner manufacturer with a facility just outside of Houston in Waller, has signed a 15-year naming rights deal with the professional baseball franchise. They have been named Minute Maid Park after the Coca-Cola subsidiary since 2002. So they will be playing that. They will be playing that. Very nice. Very, 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 very nice. And then John tells us, or will tell us about, you say the Olympic tournament is taking shape, John.
Yeah, the Olympic tournament's going to be a completely different format from what the World Baseball Classic is. Only 6 countries will be involved in the Olympic baseball and softball tournaments, as
Mm.
opposed to what the World Baseball Classic will be, which is 20. Um, and the rosters for this thing are also going to be a little interesting. For the baseball tournament, the rosters will be 24 players, and for the softball, it'll be 15. And so this is not going to be the star-studded event that people, I think, were hoping for when baseball and softball was brought back for the games in Los Angeles in 28, because with a 24-player roster for baseball, it's probably going to be 12 pitchers and 12 positional players. And on the pitching side, I think you'd have 5 starters and probably 7 relief pitchers. But more importantly, for the positional players, you're going to only have a bench of 3 players. That's all you're going to have. And those
Oh,
3 players better be able to play more than one position, because one of those positions is going to have to be a backup catcher. I mean, these rosters are really going to have to figure out how they're going to be able to basically play 5 games in a preliminary process before you get to the 14 medal round. So this is not going to be what people were hoping for. I think that's going to end up being the case.
What kind of baseball are we going to get out of that? I mean, that's a thin roster.
It's a thin roster, yes, and I think you're going to have a lot of very good baseball players that are not going to be associated with this because there's just not going to be space on the rosters to put them on. And again, the United States, obviously, because they're the host country, they don't have to qualify for either baseball or softball. So it's 5 spots that are going to now be up for grabs in qualifying tournaments that the Olympic Committee has not established yet. But I would think those qualifying tournaments are going to take place either in the fall of 26 or at least in the fall of 27. And those are going to be hotly contested qualifying tournaments because of the fact that only 5 spots are going to be available for all of these countries to try and get.
How many bench players?
I think it's going to be 3 because you got 8 players behind the pitcher, or 4. It'd be 4 bench players, 8 players behind the pitcher. One of those bench players has got to be a backup catcher just in case you need one. And so your benches are going to be very, very thin for this tournament. Granted, if you get all the way to the gold medal game, you're going to end up playing 7 games. But still, if something happens, these bench players better be able to play multiple positions. They're going to be needed for that.
Well, one thing for sure, Louis, the bench players won't have to worry about not getting playing time.
Right. And fewer chances for brawls, too. Yeah. But one team wants to quit the bench, and there is a brawl breaking out, though. Okay.
Pretty strange. I heard you say 3, then 4. It was still like, wow, yeah.
That's thin.
Wonder what kind of baseball we're going to get there, John.
I just don't think you're going to get what people were hoping for. I think what people were really hoping for was star-studded lineups that were going to be a part of this thing, and to get to see matchups that you would never get to see in a major league game. But that's not going to happen here.
Yeah, but what quality of baseball are we going to get, too?
I think that's the other thing. I think you were hoping, again, with star-studded lineups that you would get to see the very best from everybody. But because you're going to have players that can play multiple positions, I just don't think you're going to get what you were hoping for.
No, that's not much quality right there. That's not very much at all. It's going to be seriously lacking.
Something just doesn't seem right. Like this kind of format could really backfire. I mean,
the fact that you're only allowing 6 countries to be a part of both the baseball and softball, I think, is the other part to this.
Right.
Because there are some very good baseball and softball programs that aren't going to get there. They're not going to qualify for this.
No.
And this is for the Olympics.
Yeah.
Why does it seem like we're missing something here? It just seems like one of these puzzles where where is that piece?
Unless they change the format between now and, say, the fall of 27, and maybe they do. But I think for now, what you're going to get is not what you were hoping for.
My thing is this, John. Again, we're not claiming to be baseball experts. And
No.
I don't think either one of us stayed at a Holiday Inn Express last night.
No.
But
No.
if the purpose is to go compete against the purpose is to compete against the world, right? In the Olympics, right?
You would think.
It doesn't sound like that's what they're doing with this, like right now.
No, it doesn't sound like it at all, does it? No.
Look, I'm just gonna say it. I'm gonna say it really straight, right? This format sounds to me like a recipe for a global ass whipping at the Olympics. I mean, I don't see how you have a well-prepared baseball team with this thing. I don't. Why the change? Why the change?
I think because the only thing I can think of is because of the 2 weeks that the Olympics are involved. Number one. Number two, the fact that when this takes place, the Major League Baseball season will still be, going on. Well, it will have gone at least to the halfway point of their seasons.
Yeah.
And so who knows what kind of rosters you're going to eventually end up with here. And I think that the combination of the two is really, I think, having the International Olympic Committee be a little fearful of what can go up for Los Angeles. Injuries obviously are something that you can't foresee at this point. very good players ended up on disabled lists because they, during the first half of the Major League season, hurt themselves and consequently can't play in this thing. I think that's also a concern. But only 6 countries, I think, is really the part that I think is really going to make a lot of people unhappy. Because, again, there are going to be a lot of very good baseball players and a lot of good, very baseball.
That are not going to be there. That are not going to play.
They're not going to be there. They're not going to be there.
Listen, you just said 6 countries. There are more than 6 countries that can produce baseball players. So,
and think about the U.S., for instance. You've only got a 24-person roster here. And so there are going to be a lot of very good Major League Baseball players born in this country that are never going to get a sniff at this.
No. That's really strange. I'm not. Right. I'm not.
So how do you pick the 24? So how do you pick the 24 that are going to end up playing in this thing? How do you do this?
Did they make this announcement on April 1st? I just want to make sure.
I don't know if it was April 1st that they did it, but yes, they made it. I mean,
I was hoping it was an April Fool's joke.
Yeah.
Sounds like it was not.
And if Mark DeRosa does end up to be the manager of the Olympic baseball team, which I do think he has an opportunity to be, I think picking this roster is going to be much more difficult than picking the one that plays for the World Baseball Team next spring.
Obviously, a story we damn sure better keep up on, right?
Yeah.
It's very interesting how they've set this up. No question. It's not what I expected, and I don't think it's what most people expected. Because if you're going to charge whatever they're going to charge at Dodger Stadium and Angel Stadium to see these baseball games, I'm not sure you're going to get your dollar's worth.
I don't know. Okay.
Yeah.
What? Louis, you got an answer? Because John and I don't.
No, I'm just as stumped as you are. This is going to be a big letdown.
Yeah, it is going to be a big letdown. I agree. I think it is going to be a big letdown. I agree.
A big letdown. It's going to be a whole lot worse. It's going to be a whole lot worse than that. It's got to. I mean, it's 2 years early, so 3 years early. So they're going to change the format. They can't. There's no.
But the one thing they can't change is the time. They can't change the length of the Olympic experience. No. That's the one thing they can't do. And so if they believe that 6 teams is the only way they can get this done in 2 weeks, then that's where they're going to go with this.
Like I said, we're not the experts. They are.
Yeah.
Ooh, I want to see how this turns out. So this week in college baseball brings us to a new number 1.
Georgia Bulldogs. Say hello to the Georgia Bulldogs.
Just like that, there is a new number 1 in college baseball, John.
Yeah, the Georgia Bulldogs took care of South Carolina over the weekend and consequently became the new number 1 team in the country. Again, it's an SEC team, and basically it's been SEC teams that have been the number 1 ranked teams in the country since the season began. But now it's a new one, and it's the Georgia Bulldogs.
Hold on, John. We're lost here. Georgia or Texas?
Well, either one now. Okay, so it's... Well, the new poll should have come out, so maybe Texas.
Yeah, Georgia. Right. Where am I? I'm just trying to see how close. Okay, this is today, John. This is today. Okay. All right, so Texas
is now number 1.
Texas taking over because I knew that, because as it says here, for the second week in a row, there's a new number 1. Texas takes over the top spot after winning a road series at Kentucky. But the marquee wins this week was LSU, and they swept Georgia. That's what knocked Georgia out.
Yeah, because Georgia had taken care of South Carolina the week before, and so okay, they lost.
I was on the same page. I was on the same page as you with Georgia. I was on the same
Yeah.
page as you. When I turned to look, I said, "Wait a minute." So Texas now sits alone atop the SEC standings at 13-2, and they haven't had a losing weekend all season long.
And that'll get you to the number one spot in the country very easily, especially in that league, no doubt.
Remember a couple of years ago, John, we were asking what happened to Texas?
Yeah, and I think what's happened to Texas is they've frankly, they've taken care of that program. Really, they've kind of revitalized it a little bit, revamped it somewhat, and they've got some players in there that are really starting to bring Texas baseball back to where it's been for the most part. And obviously, moving to the SEC, they kind of had to make some adjustments to that program to compete with whom they're going to compete with on a weekly basis, the LSUs, the Tennessees, and so forth in that league. I mean, that league is stacked, as we all know. So if you're going to compete in that league, you better have some players that can compete in that league, and they do.
Speaking of Clemson and Tennessee, they each move up a spot after a 3-1 week this past week in baseball. However, here the biggest climbers of the week are North Carolina and Georgia Tech.
Well, Georgia Tech is now atop the ACC, and
oh, really? Okay.
That's become big news in the ACC. That the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets are now starting to flex their muscles a little bit. The ACC right now is projected to potentially have at least 11 teams make the NCAA tournament out of the 16 that are in that league altogether. And there are two others, Boston College and California, that are on the bubble. So 11 could end up to be 13 if things pan out correctly. Boston College had a nice weekend as they took 2 out of 3 at home from Notre Dame and moved themselves up in the standings in the ACC. However, they've got a big weekend coming up at Wake Forest that they need to find a way to at least win a game from so that they can keep things going in the right direction.
One of our favorite teams we like to talk about over recent years is not only not on the bubble, they're not even in the rankings. That little mid-major we call Dallas Baptist. They're having a rough go of it this year. They're having a rough go.
But the good news to Dallas Baptist is they can still win their conference and get there that way.
Exactly.
And I think that may end up being the best route for them is getting it done that way. And
here in my neck of the woods, Vanderbilt fans are not happy with what they're seeing with this Commodore baseball team. They've already got 10 losses. They've dropped in the rankings. They're number 19, trying to slip out. Vanderbilt trying to slip out of the top 25. That's a change.
Well, if they keep losing, they will.
Yeah.
And not only that, they'll also miss out on the possibility of hosting a regional, which would be something that you expect Vanderbilt to do.
And then TCU brings themselves into the top 25 ranking, knocking Kansas out after they beat up on Kansas and swept them. So, again, still early.
Yeah, but you're getting to the point now. I mean, we're at the middle of April, so the college baseball season only has about 5-6 weeks left to it. Right. Everybody should be in the second half of their conference seasons.
Yes.
So now it's on to making sure that you get to your conference tournaments, and then you go from there, especially if you're in the mid-major and small mid-major categories.
Hey, John, Clemson is pretty good, huh?
Yeah, they beat up on Stanford this weekend at home and has really solidified themselves as a team that could end up hosting a regional when the field of 64 gets announced on Memorial Day Monday. And that is a pretty good baseball team that is really starting to hit its stride at the right time. And again, the Stanford Cardinal, that was the team that some had projected as a 3 seed in any regional that they ended up in. But they've been an under 500 team in the ACC since the season began. It's been a rough go for them. And then when you talk about the Stanford Cardinal, you're talking about a team that regularly makes the NCAA tournament.
Regularly.
Yeah, on a regular basis, and even makes it to Omaha on a semi-regular basis. But
Mhm.
they've had a rough go in the ACC this year. They really have found out what the difference between West Coast baseball and East Coast baseball happens to be, and it has not been kind to them so far.
Not at all, my friend. And now we go to that part where I look at Louis and say, Louis, final thoughts.
Well, like I said, the East looked is a little bit in shambles right now. I mean, the AL East, that is. AL, the NL East is looking sharp. NL West is looking even better. And of course, the White Sox are still the White Sox. Could be another long season in Chi-Town. That's all I
Yeah,
can tell you.
go stay the White Sox, right? John, final thoughts.
Well, the final thought is this is how bad it is for the A's in Sacramento. Juan Soto on Saturday got hit by a pitch and wanted to have X-rays done to make sure that the ball that hit off his leg was okay. So they put him on a cart, and the cart, as it was going to where the locker facilities are in Sacramento, it ran out of gas, and so they had to walk Juan Soto with the help of two other guys to his locker room to be able to get the X-ray done to make sure that the leg was okay. That's how bad it is for them out there in that ballpark.
Holy crap. Now that's
Oh.
that's bad.
That's very bad.
It's very bad. I mean,
It is. It's very bad.
that's freaking embarrassing, man.
That
That is
too.
embarrassing. Okay. My final thoughts are with again baseball. Listen, it's early.
Come
Uh,
on.
I'm surprised at the mediocrity so far
Oh, all right.
of the league. So what I'm interested in seeing, Louis, is
Yeah.
who starts to break away, what teams start to break away from the rest of the pack. I don't know if the Cubs can keep playing baseball like this. You you got to think that the Dodgers eventually are going to figure out and remember well what they're supposed to be doing. So that's the intrigue for me, John. On my final thoughts is seeing the teams that are doing well, teams that usually by the end of the season well are not where they are right now. When do the Dodgers wake up? 11-6. I We were joking, remember?
Oh no,
60,
we were. Yes, we thought they win 120 games, right?
65 wins by the All Star break, John.
Yeah, it may not happen now. I just think that I think they eventually they wake up. Again, the bottom of the order has really been a problem for the Dodgers. They can't get anything out of these 7, 8, 9 spots in that order, and because they can't, it's making it difficult for the top of the order to get the job done. To really have that order keep the line moving and consequently create the kind of offense that everybody expects them to create. I think eventually it happens. It's just not going to happen as quickly as people would have thought. But I still think this Dodger team is the best team in baseball. It just doesn't play like the best team in baseball. So far, that hasn't been the case. But I also think that this is a Dodger team that may not necessarily care about their overall regular season record. They may just be more concerned about October itself. And so because of that, they're gonna do this.
That's true. They know they know they got the team to make it to the postseason. They know they got the best team in baseball. They just got to get there. Oh, one note. Congratulations. Congratulations to Paige Beckers as she has been chosen number 1 by the Dallas Wings.
What a shock.
Yeah, no, what a shot. I agree.
In the what was that, Louis?
What a shock.
Exactly. Yeah.
Hey. The Malanga woman from France, she goes second. And
Okay.
DC is on the clock. I'm gonna go watch me some WNBA draft, boys.
All right.
This is in the batter's box, the GSC Sports Baseball Show. I'm your host, Rob Garcia, of course, always joined by John Doucette and Louis Tenor. I don't know if I'll be back talking politics. We will be talking some NBA, Louis, NBA playoffs. We'll be talking some NBA. So join
Yeah.
us. Other than that, don't forget the website, ngscsports.com.
Just let me know what you're gonna do with them,
What was that?
because I didn't get the memo. I didn't get the memo last time.
No, I didn't get you the memo, but I'm going to get you the memo for the playoffs.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
Everybody have a good night. Great show, guys. Peace.
See you.